Well, we're back here again, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. You are watching Knockouts and Three Counts. I'm Kyle. If you're new to the channel, I'm the host of this show. Along with me, we've got the other host of this show. We've got Corey Lay. And again, if you guys are new to the show, we bring you everything from great interviews to great analysis and just what the fuck we think of what's going on in pro wrestling and MMA. Corey, I'd say we had a pretty stacked weekend of fights last weekend.
It was a crazy week. You'll see us get into it towards the middle of the show, man. The pay-per-view, there was so many standout names, and we kind of break it down them all. I kind of forgot to touch on Mackenzie Dern fight, but other than that, dude, the whole night of fights was an incredible card. And
if you're a fan of wrestling and MMA, man, you were covered on both ends. And tonight we got a very special guest with us. We're bringing on Derek Montilla of the Steel Cage podcast to help us break it all down. So again, if you haven't already done so, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned because you are in for another episode of, as Devin would say, Podcast Gold.
Man, what a night, dude. I mean, the main event was like legitimately the double Sunday on top of the Sunday on top of the cherry. It was like so much. It stacked the card as perfectly as it could to top the night.
Before you get there, you're damn right, because we had a hell of a knockout on Friday with our homie Josh Burns going viral, putting that man to sleep at Bare Knuckle FC. Hot damn. Hot damn, that man was sleeping and his eyes was rolled in the back of his head, and he said, "Oh shit! Oh shit! He hit me." All right, go ahead. What up, everybody? This is Kyle, and you are back watching, listening, whatever the fuck you're doing to consume this great content. You're watching Knockouts and Three Counts, and we've got another great episode of Podcast Gold for you, ready and in the chamber. Corey, how the fuck are you doing this tonight before I get to our guest?
Pretty good, man. Fresh off eating some pretty damn good pizza. That's how my Tuesday's going this week. What about you, man? How the hell you guys doing?
I'm ready for fucking Christmas time to get over with, so we don't got to deal with as many customers. But hey, I'm just saying that. But hey, we've got a very special guest with us tonight, man. We got a guy who I got to meet when I was out in LA with past guests of the show, the homie Mega Ran. We've got from the Steel Cage podcast, we've got Derek Montilla. How the fuck are you doing today, man?
I am doing fantastic, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm ready for Christmas. I love this time of year.
Me too. I'm not saying that I'm mad that it's Christmas time. I'm just ready for 2020 as a whole to be over with.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. 2020
has done whooped my ass, like sideways, left, right, up, down.
Yeah, 2020 has whooped all of our asses. 2020 is undefeated, and I'm ready to see it be beaten, Go away.
Yeah, I got my ass kicked like Austin did when there was the bounty on his head in the Rumble. But
yeah.
Let's get first things first. Before we get to talking about all this shit that's going on in wrestling and MMA and all that bullshit, I mentioned that you're one of the hosts of the Steel Cage podcast.
Yes, sir.
Let everybody know some of the places where they can find you. For those who don't know, like I said, I got to meet this dude when we were out in LA doing our thing out there. Good times at GCW.
I had a blast
and all that good stuff, man. And you missed the best part. After you guys left, man, I opened up a Mustang down the freeway from San Diego to LA. That was the best part of the whole fucking trip.
That part made me smile so much because
I thought
you had a lot
bad
to
about
do.
Snapchatting you guys. Like, I wanted to like send you a video because, Dude, I had that bitch in the carpool lane up over 100 a few times.
That brought such joy to my heart knowing that you did that. I think that one of the best things in life is when you make the best out of anything that you have to do, even if you don't look forward to doing it, but you make the best out of it, right? And like you had a long trip and kind of a complicated situation where you were meeting a friend of yours and former MMA fighter. And yeah, man, knowing that you jumped in a Mustang instead of some busted ass car and drove down the right way, that brought me a lot of joy, right?
Man, the shitty part about it, and full disclosure, I blame myself for this. but I guess maybe we'll call it a noob move since it was my first time ever driving a convertible Mustang. My stupid ass didn't think to ask the guy how the fuck to do that until I was zooming down the freeway. And I'm like, fuck, this would be dope if the top was off it. And I'm like, well, damn it. But then I at least was able to like have solace in the fact that I got to open a Mustang up down the freeway down and back. And let me tell you, they didn't have no governor on that bitch because I was over 100 a few times.
That's nice. Yeah. So it's the best way to do California, especially if you happen to be there when there's no traffic like that.
That's what I was gonna say.
You don't normally get to open up on the freeway in California.
Yeah, the most heavily populated state, and you just so happen to be there when everybody's locked in their house and with the most beautiful views. Yeah, let's get at it.
Let's get it right. Well, I mean, we had a beautiful view at GCW, and it was a really weird show. Like, there wasn't that many people there. It was being held in a state park, but it felt great to be out and be watching pro wrestling, live. Like, we have not had that opportunity for the majority of 2020. So that was one beautiful thing, was to just see a show live, even if I was terrified of anybody that wanted to come up and talk to us while we were there. Like, no, stay back. No,
you ain't lying. What up, Chris? I see you in the comments. Chris came and checked this out with our last week's episode with the American Kaiju, Miss Lindsay Snow. We appreciate the support, kind sir. Yeah, dude, LA was very much needed for me, man. It was a good time out there at GCW. Sabu didn't look so great.
No.
Hey, and that's a tough one, okay? Because being from Michigan and a kid who grew up in the Attitude Era, I mean, Sabu was the shit.
Yeah.
Homicidal, genocidal. You know the spiel, but what you see in 2020 and what you saw in 1995 are two totally different things.
Yes.
And let me tell you, it wasn't looking good for the homicidal, genocidal one.
Yeah, no, it's rough, because that's one thing about pro wrestling is I think it's hard for these guys to let go. And even when they do let it go, they have to come back. They have to stay in the orbit, and they have to come back every once in a while and visit. And yeah, it gets harder and harder to see some of those guys, especially someone as physical as Sabu. That's not exactly a gimmick that's going to let you be an old timer still coming back and doing the tip of the hat performance. You're not exactly doing death matches just in a lackadaisical fun kind of way.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. So before we get on, like I said, to this, tell us a little bit about Steel Cage Podcast, how that came to be, and let everybody know where they can find all that shit at.
Oh yeah, man. The Steel Cage has been an absolute blessing for me. I came across these guys similar to like how you met Mega Ran. We were actually just sitting next to each other at a episode of Raw here in Phoenix, Arizona. They happened to have this website called thesteelcage.com that I had heard of and kind of checked out because they were a local website, local podcast. And, I just it was funny. Josh, who's the founder proprietor of the Steel Cage, was wearing Google goggles. I don't know if you remember those, but
the Google Glass.
Yeah, the Google Glass, right? Yeah, those things, right? And so he had been tweeting about it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I was thinking about like how annoying it is at a wrestling show to have to take your phone out of your pocket and take pictures, right? Like, it would be nice if you could just watch the wrestling show and randomly be like, click. And that was his plan on what he wanted to do with these Google lenses that he had. So he was very easy to spot in the wrestling crowd, but coincidentally enough, we also sat right next to each other. So that was kind of just, I guess karma, or I don't know how you would say it. It's fate, so we ended up becoming friends, and they invited me on the show, and like a stray cat they fed, I never left. And I've been there for like 5 years. And it's been some of the best friends I've ever made. Like, that's one of the great things about pro wrestling is I've met so many friends because of it. Friends who I have other interests with, and friends that I do completely different things with, and we go on vacations and we do all sorts of stuff, but we met because of pro wrestling. It's hard to find friends, I think, the older you get, and it's definitely hard to find friends that are into pro wrestling. Like,
I agree.
That Venn diagram gets very small, and so if you happen to make friends with people who are, your age at this point, it's kind of nice, and you hold on to it. I just was blessed to have these guys also happen to be awesome people. We've gone to New Orleans. We've done a bunch of WrestleMania trips together. We are frequent attendees to PWG in Reseda and now in LA.
Fuck you guys.
So it's an absolute blast. And I'm really happy that I found, guys that I could do this thing with. I do sports, so it's easy to find other people that are into sports, and that's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. But
Yep.
I've just always loved wrestling, and it's not easy to find other people to enjoy it with. I think that's why most people kind of stop enjoying it too, to be honest. I think
Because they don't have anybody to share it with. Corey,
right, and then you just kind of watch it by yourself, and then one day you're just like, I don't need to watch this anymore, kind of deal. But
pretty much. I mean, my man's got his irons over here in a lot of fires. He's also writing for the Arizona Diamondbacks, if I'm not mistaken.
It's azsports.com, so it's our arizonasports.com. We are the radio station that cover the game. So I do cover the Diamondbacks, and yeah, it's a blast. I've been covering the Diamondbacks now. Next year will be my 10th season. So I've been doing it for a while, and I love it, man. I love sports. I love being able to like combine my love of these things, including wrestling, and have it also lead to these experiences. Even if podcasting isn't the most lucrative thing in the world, it's still brought me a lot of enjoyment,
Yeah, it's always fun to hop on and be able to talk to some friends, or be able to, kind of get some people on that you always kind of looked up, not necessarily looked up to, because I feel like that's the wrong word, but kind of had a real respect for, the fact that you can have conversations with people that you just have respect for. Or even like in our case, like I've self-admitted I'm lower on the wrestling end and fan wise, but I'm huge into MMA.
Yeah.
And we get a ton of these MMA guys, and even like the upcoming prospects and stuff, man. Like when I tune into their fights and stuff, it's like a whole nother level of just like, oh, I know a little bit of backstory about this guy. And it's it provides a whole nother layer. And I could only imagine after doing it, like you were saying, for 10 years in the sports broadcasting like that, that's a lot, man.
Yeah, I've seen guys.
The rotation of players that you see out, and the trades that happen, and everything that happens about it. It's just that interesting career choice. I'd love to do something like that myself. That's for sure.
Well, and it's one of those things that I never actually thought I would get the opportunity to do. And like once you do it, you realize the ups and downs. You realize like. For instance, a lot of people want to do this, so it's you're not exactly in a position like you are in other jobs where you're valuable. You're easily replaceable by someone who could probably do the job just as well, if not maybe even better than you, and they'll be willing to take $1 less, per hour or whatever, right? So sports is very competitive when it comes to that, and it makes it that much harder, I think, to break through and stick around in that early phase. I think I just never thought I would be given this opportunity, so like that's kind of what I've held on to and wrapped my arms around is I can't believe I get to be in the clubhouse, and I can't believe I get to be in the press box. And to this day, 10 seasons later, it's still like that moment where I walk in and I'm kind of like, this is and it, like what you said too is a great part of it. I think I've almost enjoyed seeing the careers now and seeing young players come up, and it's very similar to like the indies with pro wrestling, to get to see these guys come from nothing, to get see these guys be backyard wrestlers or be nobodies, and to build their career on their own. I mean, especially with the wrestling, that's one part that's way more fun to watch. These guys are completely in control of their own promotion and their t-shirt sales and how they interact with people on social media and everything they do. And some people are just so clever about it and so unique. I've had the chance to see guys, be no names, and now they're on, WWE television. I've seen guys get booed out of the building because nobody wanted to watch them, and now, they're the same dickheads on WWE television. It's that part about wrestling I think is the most fun. Is just watching these guys persevere this really difficult career. And same thing with MMA. Just that kind of career that you just it's so hard initially, and especially once you start being a professional, it's hard to it's hard to make decent money, it's hard to get big fights, it's hard to do all of this stuff. But man, I mean, once you make it to that point, once you make it to an elite level, you deserve to be there, because it's a really difficult field to make through that initial kind of phase, that initial push.
And one thing that's also real interesting about it with I would say 99% of jobs out there, once you've made it to that elite level or even a level of good, once you start getting to the point where you're winning in your career path, whatever that be, the definition changes, of course, depending on career. It usually becomes easier. Where in MMA, the more you win, you're climbing rankings, and now your opponents are now significantly harder. Yeah. So it not only are you trying to improve your life, but like you said, there's no soft resting point at the top. You know, that's another thing that keeps it so interesting for me.
Yeah,
you know,
so same thing with pro wrestling too, right? Like there's no stopping, and if you do get complacent, then you become a mid-carder, you become a jobber, you become a nobody, you become a, you know, what people were calling R-Truth at one point, just collecting a paycheck and being on the payroll. You know, JTG still has a job. Wait, what? Wild, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it's, you know, I can see how difficult the whole thing is. And, you know, you have a lot of variables and factors once you work for a company like WWE, for instance, that you're no longer in control of. It's pretty much what they decide to do for you, what t-shirt designs they want you to have, all of that kind of stuff. I think now, you know, I have known guys that have just busted their ass to get where they're at. And like it's an unforgiving career. And like you said, you know, you get to the top, especially in like wrestling, and it's just more scrutiny and more, you know, more criticism over how good you are and if you deserve to be there and all of that. You know, MMA, at least because of the fact that it's real fighting, you're knocking guys out, then you deserve to be there, you know. But WWE always has that thing about no matter how hard you worked, that someone else was their decision to put you there, you know. And I'm sure even MMA fighters get that too, because I'm sure there's guys that claim other guys got an opportunity just because Dana White liked the way they look.
Oh, dude, you're gonna get that in every business you're in.
That's very true. You know,
one thing. So, talking about business and talking about businesses you're in, again, I like to fancy myself one of these guys who actually knows what the fuck they're doing. So I made sure I looked into a few things before we got on the air. So I got a few questions that you probably weren't expecting to be asked about.
Oh no. All right.
All right. So number one, and first and foremost, when I was looking through your shit on Twitter, I realized that in your cover photo, it says WCW Power Plant Dropout. Is that real or is that false?
That is 100% false.
I thought it might be, but I had to ask.
That is 100%
Corey,
false.
you know who else is a WCW Power Plant Dropout that you know?
Huh.
Come on, man. You watch his shit all the time. I'm going to give you one guess, and it's MMA guy. You watch his shit all the time. Don't give it away, Derek. You know who it is.
I don't know. I'm terrible with this guessing game.
Oh, man.
Don't lead me on, man. Just
Chael P. Sonnen.
That makes absolutely perfect sense, honestly. It really does. The voice, the character, the fact that he's I mean, for those of you out there who do still watch his content that he puts out on YouTube now, I mean, there still isn't much more entertaining people in MMA. I mean, there's a reason why both
love of pro wrestling, Corey.
There's a reason why both the UFC and Bellator employ the man. He's damn entertaining, you know.
I mean, that's a very fair point when he's across both companies. But last question I got for you before we get on to the recaps and what the fuck we think is going on in the world of pro wrestling and MMA, like you guys came here to listen to. Chris, if you're still in the comments, feel free to let us know what you think about all that stuff as well. But you also have parlayed your way into getting yourself there by the squared circle. If I remember right, when we was in the hotel room, you were telling me about some of your managing escapades.
That's
like
right.
One Bobby the Brain Heenan and all those great and the like. Tell me about the managing escapades.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, just putting me and Bobby the Brain Heenan in the same sentence, that's too much for me. But yes, I've always fancied myself a fan of the manager, and I've always loved the manager character. I was given an opportunity for a little while to work as a commentator for a local wrestling promotion. And while that was going on, one of the wrestlers and I kind of had a little tiff. He didn't like me. I didn't like him. I'd cut him deep on the on the mic when I was commentating. And somehow that led to an opportunity where at Zealot Pro Wrestling here in Phoenix, I met another American kaiju, Devin Sparks. So it's funny you bring up Lindsay Snow because I
check out that interview in that top right corner.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me tell you, Devin wants none of Lindsay, so that's why there is. I don't think
many people really do want to smoke with Lindsay.
There is no wanting smoke there, so she can keep the nickname, I believe, as far as Devin is concerned. But yeah, I met Devin. You know, we kind of talked, we hit it off, we concocted a few plans, and I've been been able to manage him successfully for a year as Zealot Pro Wrestling until that damn Chris Bay came in and took the belt away. And he still hasn't come back and brought it back. And I'll never forget that, Chris Bay. We want the belt back. But yeah, you know, I don't know. I'm a wrestling fan at heart, and it was an absolute dream to get involved in any way, shape, or form. I had ideas. I had thoughts. I think I've just, really wanted to get involved in some way that made sense. I'm definitely not somebody that's going to get in there and try to wrestle. I'm fully aware of how difficult that is, and how many people think it's easy to get in there and do what these guys do, and realistically how it's not, but I will be the asshole on the side of the ring, yelling stuff and distracting refs and doing anything I can to make my guy a winner. So if any pro wrestlers out there are looking for a manager, get at me. I'm available. My rates are cheap. You'll win championship matches, online Twitter promotion. I got a blue check mark. There's lots of things I can offer. I
got a blue check mark.
I throw streamers really well, like better than any fan can throw streamers. And I will run around the ring and throw streamers for you during your entrance, even if none of the fans will. What other
They'll make it like Ring of Honor, damn it! Even if we ain't Ring of Honor,
you'll think that this was a 5-star match in the Tokyo Dome, baby.
Hell yeah! All right, well, that's as good a place to start as any. All right, like we said, Derek is a lifelong fan of this, just like I am. There's plenty of shit that's going on in the world of pro wrestling. First of all, Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. Do you really want to see it? Why or why not?
I don't want to see it for the same reason nobody wants to see it. Everybody that doesn't want to see it doesn't want to see it for the same reason.
You don't want to see who's got the better spear, bro.
Yeah, no, I don't give a shit about that. That's just the biggest bullshit. First of all, Edge has the better spear, if we want to talk about that. But I'll say that the concept of Roman needing to do more underhanded things, just to kind of bolster his resume, right? Like, he is now in the ultimate heel phase of his career and in the WWE. He's the biggest bad guy. He's the end boss. He has been well established over the last couple of months in a way I never even thought was possible. We have always kicked around ideas about the heel Roman Reigns, and this has been better than we could have even imagined. I mean, the way he
I didn't ever think they'd put Paul Heyman with him. That's
no. And I mean, I guarantee you at one point when we were just bullshitting and throwing ideas out there, that was an idea we had that we never would have thought happened in a million years. It's a great concept. And I think even retiring Goldberg and having him do it is a great move. So like, that's where I'm conflicted. I don't want to see the match, but the storytelling and the thing that it would do for Roman's career, it would do good things. It would be good
but
for him.
Does he really need it though?
No, absolutely not.
That's what we're getting at. Like, yes,
answer your question,
potentially do good, yes, but could it also potentially be really bad, like what happened in Saudi Arabia? Yes.
And I think there, to be honest, the risk isn't worth the reward. I don't think the reward is big enough. I don't think that the end game is going to make Roman look that much more evil. The things that he's doing to his own family already make him look awful
Like an
and
asshole.
terrible and sinister and all the things you want a bad guy to look, right? So like you can't make him look like more of a dick by going and beating some old asshole that won't hang it up. Like, I don't give a shit that he kicks Goldberg's ass, and I'm sure the match is going to be atrocious. So from that perspective, yeah, no, I don't think it needs to happen. But again, it's like the end of Big Brother or Survivor, you know, those reality shows where someone gets to the end and they have to like list all of their accomplishments to prove that they should win the show. I think that retiring Goldberg is a great check mark on his resume of evil shit that he did. I just think that it's to answer your question, no, I don't think it's necessary.
All right. Well, before I get to the other part to that and why I asked that question, I've asked you about one of the biggest storylines, and Chris, Roman versus Goldberg. Please don't happen. Put Big E or someone against it. Roman versus Goldberg does not benefit either of them. Chris, I'm with you. I like what the fuck he said.
Yeah.
Somebody put Big E back in the motherfucking main event picture, please. Can we go back to the 5-count Big E with the weight chalk and shit?
I don't like what's happening with Big E. I don't feel like, you know, at least there was hope for me there for a little bit, and a lot of New Day fans in the concept that he was going to be like New Day over here. But the way things are going more and more based on his gear and the direction of his character and everything, I think they just split up the New Day without really like having it be a big deal. I think that they knew the fans wouldn't be thrilled about it, so that's what they've done. If that's what they've done, then yes, I think Big E needs to be pushed to the moon. You know, Big E is an absolute star, and I can't see any reason why you wouldn't put him as one of the biggest baby faces on the show. It's going to take time, though. So, like,
yeah, they're going to have to rebuild. They're kind of, in my opinion, they have to like reestablish the fact that yes, Big E is the funny guy that everybody loved and all that, but they need to reestablish the fact that not only is he a strong son of a bitch and an ass kicker, but they need to establish him as a legitimate, you know, main event contender, which I think is going to take a little bit of time for them to do.
Yeah.
But the other question that I had to go along with what we were talking about is we talked about Roman Reigns versus Goldberg and why or why not we want to see that happen. I'm going to pose you the same question and ask you, what were your thoughts on AEW bringing back Sting? Do you think it was a success? And why do you think AEW bringing in Sting was received so much better than Goldberg coming back to face Roman Reigns?
I'll say that there's still some mystique left to Sting, in my opinion. I think there's some things Sting still had to offer, and I think a lot of people didn't really like what they saw out of Sting in WWE. So the chance to see him in a different promotion doing something different might excite people. Like, I wasn't thrilled about it, but he did grow on me when I realized that he was going to kind of be this different, you know, kind of smarmy Sting, you know, this guy patting people on the head and talking shit about Darby Allin being a copycat and making Tony do this "it's Sting," you know, thing and all of that. Like, it was little subtle things, but it definitely had the smell of him being, you know, an asshole. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I would love to see a heel Sting who thinks he's better than everybody in a promotion like AEW. I would love to see him going around thinking he's this god to professional wrestling, and like people slowly realizing that he's, you know, an asshole, you know. There I think there's more storytelling possibilities there, and it's more intriguing than Goldberg coming back again. You know, every time you come back, every run you do, it tarnishes your legacy. Every time you come back for that payday, every Saudi Arabia pay-per-view you show up for,
blood money in the sand.
It makes it that much more difficult for people to care about you and to be excited to see you. You know, Sting still has something left in the tank, but he's more of a spectacle, I think, than Goldberg is, and I think Sting could be more interesting even if he doesn't wrestle. Whereas if Goldberg isn't wrestling, then he doesn't seem to have anything to offer. Right.
So for me, man, we talked about this a little bit on last week's show, but for me, man, the Sting thing has more legs to it because they came right out and said right away, Sting's not coming back to be like this in-ring talent. But the way that they're having him mess with Darby Allin and the way that he's intertwined with Cody and Arn and them, and the way that you don't really know which way he's going to go. You don't know who he's really going to align himself with. You don't really know what he's going to do. Like you said, there's still some mystique to it. Sting, I feel like, didn't get to go out the way he wanted to in WWE. So for him to get another run here with AEW, who knows what that's going to look like. But in my personal opinion, to close out the thought on that, I just feel like it's getting a better, rub than the I think that it's getting a better rub than the Roman thing, just because Goldberg seems to just come back and they always put him in there with some big name fucking, he's got to go against the guy. He's got to go against the champion. He's got to do this, when Sting, for all we know from what we've seen so far, is essentially just going to be, as far as we can tell, a manager. But in reality, like Sting always says, the one thing about Sting is that nothing's for sure. We still really don't know what's going to come out of that. The other thing that we got to talk about on the wrestling end before we get into all of the craziness that was UFC 256, which, Derek, I don't know if you got to watch UFC 256 or not, but that was quite the crazy night, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But did you watch the fights?
I did. I watched some of it. I was actually in my backyard dealing with some technical issues, so I wasn't paying too close of attention. But man, I'll tell you, I especially hearing this stuff about UFC, like changing how they're going to pay people and changing how many, or at least changing how many fighters they're going to have a roster and stuff. I just realized how good they are at continuing to build talent, no matter what. Like I mean, even if you can't credit UFC for building the talent builds the talent in some cases, but they just, much like the WWE, they don't miss a beat. They just keep coming with, talented fighters and great matchups. And like, it seems like every
They've
show
really
they're
capitalized
building
on the fact that they're the one sport that, regardless, they don't need, WWE and wrestling needs fans. You have to have fans or it's not the same.
Sure.
Yes, we've been getting by with the Thunderdome, and yes, we've been getting by with the minimal fans here, and it's not the same.
Yeah, Impact was really weird to watch. Impact with no fans, no fake crowd reaction,
and that's what I want to get into next. Before we get to that, we have one more question in the comments here. Chris asks, he goes, "Do you think that AEW is the superior product right now from a creative standpoint?"
Yeah, yes, I do.
As far as if we're judging it on creative that makes me want to watch it, I mean, I'm not gonna hold you up. You want my honest opinion, creative wise, and what I want to tune in to watch, it has to be AEW right now.
Yep.
It has to, because SmackDown, I want to see that too. NXT, I want to see that too. But if you want to talk about which one legitimately kind of has me for the most part, where I'm like, I don't know what these motherfuckers are going to do next week. Now, don't mistake what I'm saying. That also doesn't mean that I'm saying that AEW doesn't have that. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do next week, and then they come out next week and fuck it up, because they've been known to do that plenty so far. So
yes.
That's not to say that because they leave that option open, that's always the best option. But if we're talking about which one I think, has the best creative right now of what's going on, it's got to be AEW.
AEW has this weird, it's different from WWE, because WWE's roster based on NXT, SmackDown, and Raw is spread kind of thin, right? You're typically seeing every healthy wrestler every single show that they are airing. If they're a member of the Raw roster, they're probably going to be on every episode if they're healthy. Whether they're wrestling in some bullshit match or if they're involved in something different, it doesn't matter. AEW has a different factor right now where you don't know necessarily what you're going to see. It kind of reminds me of the old days of WWE and WCW, where you would tune in and you didn't know who was going to show up that week necessarily. they didn't have enough time for everybody, and most matches were going to be like some superstar versus a jobber, and it was going to be a squash match. But hey, we were going to see this parade of superstars tonight. And AEW kind of is the same thing, where it's exciting because you don't know who you're going to see on a particular episode. It's not a guarantee that you're going to see anybody, wrestle for sure. And even if they're healthy, that's fun. But the storytelling stuff, and combined with that kind of surprise factor, is way better right now than WWE. The stuff they're doing with Kenny Omega crossing over to Impact Wrestling, there's nothing WWE can do to compare with that. And Kenny fought at Triple Mania this weekend and defended his belt against Laredo Kid. We watched that shit. That was a fire match. Kenny's threatening basically to go after Rich Swann's Impact title, so he's gonna have all the belts for all of the promotions that aren't WWE.
Ultimo Dragon, motherfucker.
It's gonna be awesome, But that's what I'm saying is WWE, based on them kind of shooting themselves in the foot in regards to needing to create their own wrestling ecosystem. Impact Wrestling can go do fun, exciting things like this, especially when it benefits everybody involved. I just couldn't believe Impact went in so hard to make it so meta, where they were referencing on the show what a big deal it was to have the rub from having Kenny Omega on the show. You had Scott D'Amore talking to Tommy Dreamer, being like, "This is great for us. What a great night. This is going to be the best night."
I mean, hey, at least they're playing it up for what it is, though, bro. I mean, fuck, they ain't hiding it. I mean, hey, take awesome, that rub, kid.
I think especially in today's day and age of reality, right? Like, everybody knows everything. It's the information age. You can't hide real names and you can't hide information anymore. And everybody's a smark, so everybody knows everything about pro wrestling. Why not handle it this way? The way that Tony Khan cut a commercial basically saying, "I'm paying for airtime so Impact can have some more money to keep themselves on the air," that shit was hilarious. Like, everything they did to poke fun at Impact was great, but then to have Impact play along with it too, hilarious. Like, it was gold. And I just haven't felt this excited about watching a wrestling promotion, a weekly show, in a long time. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know where Kenny Omega is going to go next. You don't know when this is going to involve New Japan or Ring of Honor or any of the other promotions. So it's just a fun thing to be fantasy booking matches and to be wondering if this stuff is going to happen.
Chris, see, that's why it's a great thing for all of you guys who are watching live. If you've got any thoughts on anything that you hear us talking about right now, let us know in the comments, because I think Derek and I pretty much were able to just cap that one off on why AEW is the one that I'm watching most intently. It's kind of hard for it not to be the one you're watching most intently when they're doing what, like Derek just said, in my opinion, is the most. I don't know why it's taken this long for us to see the other companies kind of squat up like that. Because the thought of the fact that in 2020 we could have Kenny Omega maybe be the 2020 version of the Ultimo Dragon with all the belts pretty much. Like I said, I like it. I like the fact that he's still defending the AAA title. I like the fact that he's got the AEW title. And like you said, who knows? He's already alluding at going at the Impact title. And if anything else, it brings Impact up along with it. The only thing that's going to be interesting for me, and again, let us know in the comments what you think, but it's going to be just interesting to see if they can sustain it to where both companies seem on even playing field, right?
Well, they're not even playing it that way. They are totally playing it like Impact is the subpar wrestling promotion compared to AEW. AEW is the rich daddy money, and Impact is barely, is barely keeping the lights on. That's why I think it's so funny, is because even the people from Impact are treating it that way too. Like AEW, yeah, I could understand Tony Khan talking shit, talking down to another wrestling promotion, but Impact is almost willingly going, yeah, we are barely keeping the lights on. Thanks for the money, Mr. Khan. It's wild, but it's also really funny. And Impact deserves credit for how long they've been on the air. I think we all thought this company was dead in the water at least 5 times in their history.
At least.
So for them to be still plugging along and doing the stuff they're doing now, which is pretty fun. They have a pretty good roster, but
they have the best women's roster in wrestling, in my opinion.
Oh, well, that's not true at all, but I will just
Okay.
I will say no.
Who the fuck
I will say
what are you gonna say? NXT?
NXT is the only one that competes with it.
I'm not mad at that. See, I got no problem with that.
Yeah, NXT is
I
the
have
only
no
one
problem with that.
Right.
I have no problem with that. As long as you don't say AEW.
Oh, no. And
as long
neither,
as you don't say
neither may Raw
AEW,
roster. Yeah, AEW.
we're all right.
AEW's been abysmal when it comes to the women's division, and I think that there's a lot of things AEW still has to work out. I think AEW made lofty promises, like a politician getting into office, that they just knew they couldn't fulfill, but they said it anyway, and fans went along with it. I appreciate that they're trying to do something different. I appreciate the fact that they do take the female competitors seriously, and I like what they did with Thunder Rosa and the NWA Women's Championship.
Agreed.
Featuring that again. It's the same thing, featuring other shows champions and other promotions and all of that. That's gonna be the home run. And honestly, like, giving Impact credit once again, they did this stuff first with like the Hardy Boys with their Expedition of Gold, going around with the tag team belts and all that stuff. So like that has been something that I've thought has always worked well, but they never had the kind of support they do now to work together. Like AEW
Not
and
another
Impact
major backer.
Right. AEW and Impact working together is a much bigger deal than them going down to the Crash in Tijuana and winning the tag championships or whatever. So this is going to be fun.
I mean, Impact's always done a real good job of being able to incorporate the smaller promotions. And speaking of smaller promotions, make sure you smash that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the great content, like our interview with Calvin Hollywood Harbaugh, who's getting ready to go to war this Friday for CFFC. CM Punk's going to be on commentary,
Nice.
He's going to war for CFFC. He's going to pick up that dub live on UFC Fight Pass. Make sure you don't miss that shit and check out that interview. All right. Now is about as good a time as any to jump over into the fight side of things. Now, Derek, you said that you got to see a little bit of UFC 256. For those of you who don't know, we saw quite the banger in the main event, man. I'm going to just throw this out here. I mean, Dana's already said that he has every intention of running it back, but bro, Moreno versus Davison Figueiredo, that is not how I think anyone really expected that fight to go. And if you say you did, you're a fucking liar. I'm just saying, you're a fucking liar. I love you. And if you're watching the show, you could still be a fucking liar, but I love you. But anyway, there's no way anybody expected that fight to go that way.
No.
Davison Figueiredo didn't even make it to the post-fight press conference because he was in the hospital. The fight ended up in a draw. Great showing for the young buck. I got nothing. All I know is, Dana, you already said it. Don't take your word back. I want to see these motherfuckers run it back.
Yep.
Corey, you've been quiet. I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on the barn burner or the slobber knocker, as quoted by Joe Rogan, that was the main event?
Man, what a night, dude. The main event was like legitimately the double Sunday on top of the Sunday on top of the cherry. It was like so much. It stacked the card as perfectly as it could to top the night.
Before you get there, you're damn right, because we had a hell of a knockout on Friday with our homie Josh Burns going viral, putting that man to sleep at Bare Knuckle FC. Hot damn. Hot damn, that man was sleeping and his eyes was rolled in the back of his head, and he said, "Oh shit! Oh shit! He hit me." All right, go ahead.
I don't even know how to follow up after that. That was another great night of fights, though. Really, that BKFC, man, always out there surprising me. I mean, their fights are like, half of them are shit shows, and then the other half are pretty technical, fun fights. And it's like, you never know what you're gonna get when the fight's like actually starting. If it's gonna be the older guy that's trying to come in here to get a check is gonna get the knockout, or it's like, there's some fun fights though on that. But
yeah, just ask Dana Brooks' boyfriend. He got a 3-second knockout, fastest knockout in Bare Knuckle FC history.
But back to the pay-per-view of the night, man. That was a hell of a night, dude. I honestly don't even, I feel like the first point, I'd be remiss if the first point of the night wasn't Kevin Holland's knockout of Jacare.
Yep.
I feel like
Dope.
that's like dope.
I've never seen somebody get knocked out from a man that was on his knees. This man was on his knees when he hurt Jacare.
He wasn't even on his knees,
who was
Kyle.
old.
He was still on his ass. He was still on his
That's
cheeks.
my point.
Cheeks were on the mat, dude.
The booty cheeks was touching the canvas.
The fact that he was able to get enough torque in that shot to like cause any type of serious damage. I mean, look out, boys. Anybody at 185, you better watch out. I mean, if you thought, you know, Big Mouth was just coming in there to talk, I mean, he shut up a lot of people with that fight. I tell you what.
How could he not though? He knocked and here's the thing, again, just to go off the point I just made. For all of you who want to say Jacare is old,
150 years old.
I don't give a fuck how old Jacare is. First of all, I don't want to fight with him on the ground. Second of all, you can call him as old as you want, but I've watched that old man eat some nasty ass punches. So I'm not ever counting him out, and much less, like I said, Joe Rogan said it himself. I have never in my life, I've been watching fights since I was like 12 or 13 years old, bro. I have not ever in my life seen a man get knocked out while a man was on his ass and he punched him and then knocked and like hurt him critically off of his knees.
He folded him, dude. He didn't even he's just like
it was a special level of core strength to get that.
That was his finisher.
Behind that,
that was his finisher, bro. He had his special all the way built up, right? and the punch off of his back. And that was the signature move, right? So he hit Y and said, "Bink," and then got up, and it was all filled up, and then he fucking did his little saying deal, bah! And that was it.
When in doubt, push all the buttons on the controller.
Mash them motherfuckers!
Yeah, all of them.
Well, one thing I feel like that needs to be mentioned, because a lot of people are saying what you kind of brought up. Jacare's old. His last fight was not even a year ago. It was against Jan Blachowicz, the current 205 champ, and he granted he lost, but it was a split decision loss. I mean, that doesn't, you know, for him to come back down to 185 and to lose like that. I mean, yeah, he is getting a little bit older, but you can't take nothing away from his skills. That just goes to show right there. And then on top of that, another thing that also really needs to be pointed out, in my opinion, the fact that he was so comfortable on the ground with Jacare, he almost got him in a triangle. He almost got Jacare in a damn submission, dude. He
was fearless, definitely, because that's like some shit where you don't mess around, because at any point you could get caught. And that's somebody that just tends to know. Like, I mean, there was what, like a 15-year age difference between the two, or close to that, right? Like,
easily.
That's somebody that just knows too much shit. And it's you kind of have to be brave and fearless to get around on scramble on the ground. You know, he catches an arm or a leg out of nowhere, and he's going to end it.
So I honestly think a lot of it had to do with his talking. If you want me to be completely honest with you, Joe Rogan said it as well. I usually am one. I hate it when people talk during fights. I hate that shit. I talk about it all the time when we're watching fights, because it's the same as I can't stand guys who walk around and they're fighting and you'll see them and their hands are down here and shit and they're doing these. And it's like, bro, you're going to get caught. Sure as shit, you're going to get caught. But the crazy thing about it, though, is like you see a guy do shit like that, and you see a guy, you know, come in running his mouth, where Dana even said ahead of the fight, he was like, I didn't want to sign that guy because of how much he ran his mouth. And now he's talking about, look, bro, I can't deny the kid. The kid's been killing it. And he just knocked out one of the major contenders at that weight class, and a legend no less. Holy shit. 2021 is going to be one hell of a year for Kevin Holland. For all of you guys who are just joining the stream, if you guys watched UFC 256, let us know what you thought of the fights. What did you think of that nasty ass knockout by Kevin Holland?
Another thing too, the other legend killer of the night, hate to say it like that because I'm a huge Tony fan, but Charles Oliveira, bro, my boy Dude Bronx came in there and put it on Tony. I mean, for anybody who had any doubt, I think that kind of answered it. I don't know if the doubt has just changed. Has it changed into is Oliveira that good, or is Tony that withered away?
Oliveira is that good, bro.
That's my thoughts on it. That really is my thoughts on the way that the whole performance went. I think Tony has lost a step, but I definitely think it was more Oliveira's performance, way more than Tony's lack thereof.
Right, because even with his experience, he looked outmatched.
Yep.
Like, you know, it was just one of those fights where it looked like at all times he was kind of defensive and never actually got a chance to get going. You know, like that I don't know. Like you just tell sometimes that certain fights aren't equal and that someone's a little bit on their heels the whole time.
Yep.
I don't know if it's aggression. I don't know what exactly it is, but yeah, it was that. I was surprised that fight went to the decision because it didn't seem like it was going to.
I mean, dude, he was putting the work on him, and I'm gonna be full disclosure here. I was not always the biggest Charles Oliveira fan because, ironically, if you guys have been paying attention this whole show, which if you haven't, guess what? You can hit that subscribe button and you won't miss any of it. Anyway, as we talked about in the beginning of the show, when Derek and I were in LA, man, that's one of the funniest parts about the whole thing. Cause like I said, I drove a Mustang from LA to San Diego to go see Miles Fury Jury. And me and Mr. DuBronx got issues. Cause I won't forget the Christmas party when I go, yeah, hey, can I watch this fight over here in this other room? My brother's fighting, and he choked out my buddy in the UFC. So me and DuBronx were like, fuck DuBronx for a minute. But I can't even argue that fact anymore. The way that man was able to use both his stand-up and his jiu-jitsu on a guy like Tony Ferguson and just totally like stifle Tony's whole game. Bro, give them, you can't not give the man his credit. I mean, it's that simple.
And beyond just the jiu-jitsu, the fact that he was able to out wrestle Tony Ferguson. Somebody
everything to Tony Ferguson.
I know, but Tony is somebody who's known for his wrestling abilities, and if he does get put on the bottom, his ability to immediately scramble out, and that just did not happen. It just literally did not. There was no even, like you said, there was not even a moment in time where it looked like it was going to happen.
It just looked at all times like he was trying to recover. You know, even when he wasn't getting hit necessarily, it looked like he was just outmatched no matter what they were doing. Which is weird because it's been a I don't know, like, so for someone like me, you guys watch this stuff, so you have a chance to see, you know, like I know he lost his last fight. They were talking about that. But, you know, you kind of get an idea in your head for some of these fighters, and you see them in one fight and you're like, this guy's a badass. And then it's so weird to adjust to like a year and a half later when you see him and they're like, oh yeah, he's on like a 3-fight losing streak and his career's pretty much just about over. And you're like, wait, what? Wow. You know, but it's that weird thing in fighting where two losses seem like the end of the world for some guys.
Well, right. But even to like parallel that to somebody else who fought earlier on the card, that's like the difference between Junior Dos Santos and what we're seeing with Tony Ferguson, right? Because Junior Dos Santos was going into this fight on a 3-fight losing streak, which briefly, before I go to my point that I was making with Tony, his opponent that Dos Santos fought, that Cyril Gane, or however the hell you say his name, the way that man was able to be fluent with his striking at heavyweight, boy, that man's going to be a fucking problem. I'm just putting that out right here. And now you heard it on Knockouts and 3 Counts. When that motherfucker goes in and starts knocking people's head off, we ain't surprised, motherfuckers. Anyway.
I think he only has 2 tough matchups in the whole of the heavyweight division at the moment. I think it's Curtis Blades and Stipe, the champ. I think everybody else, I think he wins. And for somebody to be because we were kind of joking about the fact that he was so young in his career. I think he's only 7-0 at the moment or something like that, 8-0. And for me to say that, I don't say that lightly. I really do think he could beat roughly everybody except for possibly Stipe and
I agree with you
because of the wrestling.
I agree with you, and that's why I made that point, you know, that like I said, it's the tale of two different stories where JDS is kind of a guy, even though he's a legend and he's got that pedigree, I feel like he's on his way out. Where a guy like Tony, I feel like we still got to see what he does next after here, because he faced a guy in Charles DuBronx who was just on the top of his game.
Who would you like to see a match Tony up with next? Ideal world.
Let Tony and Chandler fight.
Yeah, see, I feel like
But it ain't gonna happen now. Not after Tony.
I feel like a very, very, very fun fight would be either Hooker or Felder. Either one.
I mean,
I know it's a step
either
down
one of those fights too, man. I mean, that's gonna be a real interesting one. But
or even RDA. RDA made his way back down to 155, and that would be a very fun fight as well.
There's a few fights for Tony, but we got to see where Tony's at mentally. But we're getting towards the end of our go home queue. There was a lot of great fights. There was a lot of shit that was going on in the wrestling world. And we've been joined by our homie, Derek Montilla of the Steel Cage podcast, which I'm just throwing it out there. If y'all motherfuckers ever need a guy to come on there and come talk some shit, and hey, I know a guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know a guy too, so I will be in contact.
Shameless plugs. I don't give a fuck. It's my show. I can do that shit.
we love having guests. We love having people come check us out, and we just talk shit about wrestling, man. We try to stay positive. We try to talk about the stuff we enjoy. We're definitely not going to be like some of these websites that people are talking about that are nothing but positive. You're not going to find that, but we definitely try to have a fun time and talk about the stuff that that we enjoy and just try to love it. I feel like with pro wrestling, especially as you get older, it's like watching a kid's movie and poking plot holes in it. Yeah, it's not meant for that. The storyline stability isn't there for you to sit around and poke plot holes in, but if you just kind of enjoy the ride, pro wrestling can be a lot of fun.
Hey, it can be, man. And we had a lot of fun tonight. You're definitely going to have to come back on the show one way or the other. We're definitely going to have to bring you back at some point, brother, man. I had a good time. Corey, I definitely would say Mr. Montilla will have to come join us one of these other days.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on, too.
No problem, guys. It's awesome. Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, I appreciated it. We appreciate it. We had a great time. And as I always tell you guys before we get out of here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. But in the in-between time, until next time, in the jingle bell time, stay safe. Don't be an asshole. Peace.
It's good advice.
He'll kick us out of here. I'll send you a thing in a second.
Dude, later, awesome. Boys. Y'all have a good night.
You too, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me again.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. You really helped make the difference on this episode for sure.
Hey, no problem, man. I'd love to do it again. So yeah, keep me in mind.
Cool, boss.
Absolutely.
I'll send you guys an invite here in a second.
Okay.
All right.
Later, man.
Later.